Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for February 2nd, 2021. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to again please call the roll.
Trustee Carbonaro?
Present.
Daney?
Here.
Gansey?
Here.
Hopkins? Here. Ranke?
Present.
SUWANSKI?
Here.
President Wallace?
Present. Two items on our agenda this evening, both under Public Works. Chairman SUWANSKI.
We're looking at our traffic calming measures I'm sorry, hold on just a moment, please. I'm sorry, I had this here a second ago.
You wouldn't be the first.
Here we are. I've got it here. I've got it. Okay. I'm sorry. The traffic calming measures. On the 21st of December, we had a board meeting, and the staff was directed to look into different traffic calming methods. As specifically, we were looking at certain locations around the village, and we've got some different suggestions for these three separate areas that have been identified by the staff and the residents as high priority. So we're looking at the intersections of North and Western Avenue, Struckman Boulevard and Apple Tree Lane, and Prospect Avenue near the Bartlett Trail intersection. So I think that we had a memo from Dan with some ideas and different recommendations from the staff.
Take it away, Dan. Okay.
Thank you, Trustee SUWANSKI. As was mentioned, we were tasked with taking a look at some traffic calming tools to add to our toolbox to see if they're effective and where else we could use them. So we had a staff meeting to try to look at what types of traffic calming we would like to try to utilize, and then what areas. We did like the first one, Struckman and Apple Tree. The police department had said that Struckman tends to be one that they get a lot of calls on high-speed traffic along that stretch. And we happen to be doing our road program on the north side of the subdivision north of Struckman. So it kind of fell in place to try to do something at Apple Tree and Struckman, and what we're looking at, as this exhibit shows, is that pavement on Struckman is wide. It's like 36 feet wide, so it's essentially 3 lanes wide. To try to create a traffic calming measure, we're going to reduce that down to the 24-foot, so 2 12-foot lanes, by adding that green area here on both sides would be a landscape area. It'll bottleneck the roadway. Right now, there's a crossing here or a ramp here, but it doesn't go anywhere. So we thought, why not make a connection to the bike path on the south side? We could do a high visibility pavement striping to try to really enhance and notify the drivers of potential pedestrians crossing. So we will look to add this into our MFT program if you agree. Are there any questions on this one?
Is there going to be a problem with snow plowing?
It will make it a little bit more difficult because they'll have to plow the 36 feet and then they will go around it. So it slows things down a little bit. I mean, they're still just going to continue going. That's why we ended up on the south side continuing it through the whole distance, because if we bumped it back down, it would just collect garbage, basically. It would be pavement that is not being utilized, so we continued it all the way through. So the plow trucks will be able to ride along the curb where it's wide, then they'll just kind of follow the curb. We'll transition that area the corners where those medians bump out won't exactly get the cleanest, but they won't need to be. So I think it'll be fine. That's kind of what we want to kind of see how these work too, you know, how maintenance-wise and all that as well. So, any other questions?
Because I think that was a great question. 'Cause, are there certain type of landscape features that are like resistant to the salt that builds up there?
There are. I mean, right now we were planning to utilize, I mean, we could use grass. We can add, like the grass, the tall grasses, and daylilies seem to hold up. But yeah, if we want to actually do landscaping, we would use salt tolerant plants because.
Yeah, I don't think you want to get it too high, so, because coming out of apple tree, you want to be able to see down the road.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
the.
And it's an experiment, so let's see how it works.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think we could put grass in there, and then we could always modify it from there if, you know, if it's working well. All right.
Great.
We'll go to the next one. Prospect Road, right at the ComEd right-of-way, or crossing. We have the bike path that crosses the road there. We're always trying to enhance bike crossings and where pedestrians cross. Prospect, again, is a wide road, tends to have higher speeds. So in this case, what we're looking at doing is a landscape median. Right now, that median is striped. It's, you know, it's just a center lane that isn't utilized. So we thought we could cut out the pavement, basically put in landscaping. We would plan on putting salt-tolerant plants in this area to kind of enhance the area. We'll do it already has the crossing. We'll freshen the crossing up. And then what we're looking at doing is applying for a grant for, you might have seen these. Right now it's got it has crossing signage, but they have what they call rapid flashing crossing signals where the pedestrians that are trying to cross can hit a button and it actually does a strobe flashing to really alert the drivers, and then they cross. So
Cool.
we're trying to look to see if we could get a grant and be able to install those at that location. This one, what we're proposing to do, we have, if you remember, we've got the Devon lift station and force main. The force main is going to run right down Prospect. So when we're doing that, we could have the contractor dig that area out, put in the landscape median when they're restoring the road. That would likely, this one might be delayed. That project won't start until the fall or winter, so it might be a next spring of 22 type project or summer. Any questions here? We were thinking if this one works and really enhances it, this would be a good one on South Bartlett at the same path, basically. Because we've heard from people there that that's not our road, but if we can show, hey, this is what we did, this is what we'd like to do over there, that might be a future project, so.
Great idea.
Just as a suggestion, only because I've ridden my bike and driven a car southbound. The bike path that's there and also the driving lane, if you notice where the tree of that residence and its fence kind of block your view. Luckily, I had my brakes adjusted at Spin Doctor. I almost T-boned somebody who was walking as I was going southbound on the sidewalk bike path. It's hard to see around the corner. Is there a way to put maybe something under the bike path where if somebody steps on it, it alerts that sign to flash so somebody who's either driving or riding on the bike path knows that there's somebody around the corner?
Are you talking about this corner here? Can you see my screen where?
Exactly.
Okay.
And that tree hangs over, so I mean, it's
Yeah.
really hard to see around the corner. You don't know if anybody's coming on a bike or walking. It'd be very easy if you were riding your bike to smash into somebody.
Right. Yeah, we can take a look at that and see if there's a way to enhance that visibility over there.
Thank you.
Well, yep.
All right.
Those signs are only going to flash on demand, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we wouldn't want them flashing all the time.
Oh, no, very much.
And then the last one, I think we're all familiar with this one. We continue to look at ways to try to improve this intersection. One thing that we noticed is you can see the radius at the southeast corner. It's a very big radius, which kind of encourages cars to just roll right through because they barely have to even slow down and they just keep going. What we're proposing to do here, just on the temporary, because one of the things we have to find out is what type of vehicles are making that turn. If there's trucks, buses, that type of thing, there might be, we might have to make an adjustment. So what we're proposing to do here is use the temp curb that they have, that we can get, and actually kind of make it more of a 90. So that will actually force cars to slow down at that stop sign, and then proceed east on North Avenue. So this would be like a temporary measure where we could install, it would likely be the temp curbs along with barrels probably, and then we would monitor it, see what it's doing. Unfortunately, the pavement is not, it's only 26 feet, I think, so it doesn't give us a lot of room to do a narrow down, but we would narrow it down to the 24. I'm trying to see if we can fit something at would be the northeast corner to try to narrow that down, because the other complaint is westbound to southbound, trying to slow that down as well. We might be able to do something at the southwest corner to try to narrow that down, but we were thinking of restriping the crossings with the high visibility crossing as well to kind of really bring out that there could be pedestrians crossing here. And that's another one that, let's try it out, see if it works. We can always modify from there. Any questions on that one?
Dan,
Idea.
I've seen a number of different sized vehicles come through there. I've seen some 18-wheel vehicles. I've seen some all-purpose vehicles. So the frequency is, I would say, very limited, but I have seen a number of different vehicles go through there.
Is the hope with this to try to change the traffic pattern? If a truck that normally goes that route doesn't feel comfortable anymore, they'll actually go into downtown Bartlett and stay on West Bartlett and cut over on Hillton?
That could be part of it. I mean, I need to find out if we have semis driving here. I don't think we should. I mean, I know we have no truck signage up there, but I know they can make local deliveries, so we have to be able to accommodate that as well. But the main thing would be, the main focus is to try to slow that traffic going northbound and heading east. That's the main thing that we're trying to get here, along with the enhanced, and if we can modify the other corners to try to affect the west to southbound, we would do that as well. So
I'd like to know what the percentage of people that we're talking about that run through that intersection or don't stop. Because what's going to happen if we have any truck traffic also is if they cannot make that right turn, or if they can't make the right turn, what's to stop them from going a little farther north and then turning right onto Morris Avenue and headed down? I think what we're doing is just moving the problem up the street.
No, because they want to go down North Avenue to get to 20. So if they would go up, if they find out that they cannot make that turn, they're just going to stay on 59 and go to 20. The only reason why they do it now is because they know they can go down West Bartlett Road, make a left, cut all of that big corner out of their way, and get way farther down 20.
Yeah, well, if we can keep them on West Bartlett Road and up to 59, that'd be ideal.
right, that's the goal. Keep them there. Now that that ramp
you make them take a left on 59 off on West Bartlett Road, and then a right onto 20. That's what would be best.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The police department is going to do some pre-counts for us at all of these locations so that we can really do a before and after and see how effective each of those tools are. So we'll have that as well. And Dan, what's the time frame on this particular one?
This one we could implement this summer. It'd be one of those things, it's all temporary, so we can set it up let it run for a while, and from there, we might adjust, because we'll have the.
How high is the curb, Dan?
It's just a regular.
Because if it's temporary, those trucks will just make the turn and their back wheels will go right over the curb.
Well, the police department had the cameras that we were looking to, when we do it, we'll put a camera up, so we'll actually be able to watch
Tack strips.
movements
I
that are
suggest
actually
tack
going.
strips.
But the truck shouldn't be there, right? It's all prohibited at this.
They'll block traffic, change tires.
Right.
Yeah. And there's only a few businesses they deliver to back there, which would be 120 Live, some of those food places.
They shouldn't be over there, so. Or,
And they stay on Oneida for that.
School buses are only supposed to use Oak Avenue, so there shouldn't really be any school buses using West Bartlett, Western, and North Avenue in reverse.
All right, good creative solutions. Hopefully we can get some traction on a lot of this. I know there's a lot of complaints, and hopefully this will help.
You mentioned that
What are future plans for other areas, or do you think we're going to see people inquire about other spots?
I think the plan is to get these implemented, and then we monitor to see what type of effect they had. And then from there, we have some tools that we'll be able to use as other issues pop up.
Brilliant.
Yeah, looks great.
Good.
this is temporary, but could this be made permanent if it's successful?
I think that would be the plan, is we'd come to you and say, hey, this is what the final design or whatever we feel made the most impact. Now we'll build it, and depending on what it is, that might be something where our crews can actually do it. So we would be able to just implement it at that point. So, no other questions, and I think that's all we got for that.
All right. Next item.
Next item is our brush collection service. We were asking the staff to seek out different proposals for brush collection, and it looks like the village sent out proposals for contractors with a bid opening on January the 7th. We've got 2 bids back. So we have some recommendations from staff here also. For Dan?
Yes, I'm going to let Tyler take this one.
All right, so, yeah, currently Groot handles the brush collection, and it was part of the waste hauling contract. And they require it to be bundled in the 4x2x2 bundles. And so this was looking at an alternative to that, where it would essentially run, they would divide the village in half, pick up half 1 week, another half another, and they'd use a grappling truck that just grabs it, puts it in their truck, and then they just take it away. And we received 2 bids back, and they were less than $2,000 apart, so it was pretty good bids. And Trees R Us ended up being the low bid, and they've done a lot of work in the village already. They do several programs like this across the area. And with that, any questions I'd be happy to answer.
So what will be the difference with this? I guess I don't see that in here. Like, will we get a different rate with Groot if they're not collecting it?
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I can cover it, Scott. The plan right now would be, we can talk to Groot. We have, there would be some savings if we removed that service, but we haven't really discussed that with them until we brought this to you to figure out if we're heading in this direction or not, but we can talk to them. The alternative is just to leave the contract as is. We have another year, 2 more years with Groot, And so the people that are currently using the brush program that Groot has would still be able to utilize that. But that's something that we can discuss, and
Will Groot actually remove it in mid-contract?
that's what we have to figure out. That's what the discussions would be with them to find out. If I remember, it was, I think, 50 cents a month.
44 cents,
Or 44 cents?
yeah.
And so the main complaint is that, from what I heard, was that like group kind of wasn't picking up everything, or it was a little difficult to have Groot do it. Is that correct?
I think the main complaint that I've heard since we've been doing it is the fact that they have to bundle it.
Until those.
Yeah.
Correct.
Bundling and the seemingly arbitrary enforcement of or lack thereof of the length and width limitations. Because sometimes they'd let somebody get away with something that's a little bit longer, and then other times they wouldn't, and then the residents would get confused.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be different from that?
Yeah.
This will be similar to the program prior to Groot when the village was picking up. No bundling. They have to stack it at the curb with the cut ends at the curb. And the difference with this contract is it'll be a grappler. You won't have the chipping occurring on site. They're going to be picking it up, throwing it in a truck, hauling it to their site to do the chipping there. So it should go much quicker, actually.
Yeah,
Or
so the
we'll have
size
a situation where they'll tear up the lawn, the grappling hook.
If they were to tear up, then we would make them restore it. But they don't get that far down into it. They are able to pick it up and be able to get it. So
Will this be passed along to everyone, or is it an optional program?
it would be, the plan would be village-wide.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Village-wide,
village-wide.
everybody.
Everybody.
I think this is good news, and it depends on what Groot is going to say to us.
Yeah, and
This
is
one
the
is-
50,
This one is $323 a month, and Groot, you said was 44 cents? Is that what you said, Paula?
Groot is currently $6 a year, is what their current rate is for a resident to bundle brush and put it on their curb.
were we still getting a lot of complaints this past year?
We, this past year, in terms of the self-reporting that Groot has to do for their complaints, in 2020, we got 35. And the complaints that we received here at Village Hall this past year were pretty close to negligible.
Because I would just question if it was an education, like change issue, versus, now that people.
It was a combination of factors. I think a lot of it was year 3, the education of it. And we also had less he said, she said this past year because the complaints were down so low, we would get a picture from Groot. They would send us a picture and say this was outside of the bundling restrictions. We'd call the resident and they would go out and fix it. Obviously, the first couple of years, there were a lot more complaints than that.
I think this gets us back closer to how the village was handling it and how our residents were accustomed to brush pickup. I think our residents want to go back to the way it was. So I'm for this service. I think this would be good. I think negotiation with Groot would be key to try to recoup some of that money.
How do you bill for something like this?
The plan would be to add it to the property taxes,
Oh, gotcha.
because it does get difficult trying to bill it. So that was the plan, working with Todd.
And so
And
those that are in like a townhouse would get hit, even though they're not using it?
There will be some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's the way it's always been,
Well, technically, yeah, because even when the village was picking it up, everybody was paying for it that owned property.
So this $323 amount per month, that was just per like single-family homes, so it would actually go down, funding through the levy.
Once you filter in all the residences.
Right.
Right, once you
all the
filter in all of
commercial
them, it
properties
actually
and everything.
drops pretty good. I
Okay.
don't know exactly, but,
So we're talking a couple dollars a month.
right.
I think it's worth going forward and getting some more information.
Yeah, let's do that. And we're pretty close. We got a few months here before we have to worry about any brush, obviously.
Here before we know it. So we'll go back and we'll talk to Groot now that we know, you know,
Yeah.
you're comfortable with this program. We'll go
Yeah.
back and see where we can get with them.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'd like to
Yes.
see the specifics too, like how Groot says no more than 50 pounds. What is Trees R Us have any kind of other parameters that we need to consider?
Are you talking about 50-pound weight limit? Is that what you
Yeah, 'cause
said?
it said in here like Groot has the lengths and no more than 50 pounds. So I'm assuming if like you put a stump out there or something then.
Per bundle.
When I spoke with them, they did mention that they can't, a giant stump they won't be able to do, won't be able to pick up, but they'll be able to pick up most of your typical brush that a resident will be able to do themselves because they are using a machine, so it's not as contingent on someone picking it up, throwing it into a truck or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the contract was written with Bruce. Are residents that live in conduit locations paying for brush pickup? Currently paying.
Everybody does. That was my magic bullet, Trustee Hopkins, was trying to figure out a way where you could have a subscription. Then, because half of my neighbors get people to pick it up anyway. They're not going to use this. And
I won't use it.
and so if you could have some kind of a subscription, but it just doesn't work. There's nobody that will bid on it. It's not, the money isn't, they wouldn't make enough money to do it.
So, I don't know.
There's no real way to break it out. Like, they can't, if you've got a stack of brush and you put it out, there's no real way for them to know unless, oh, okay, I'm going to look up this address. Right now, if you have with Groot, if you got a can out, they know it's a Groot can, they take it, they can check and see if you paid your bill. To have like a la carte system, I think would be impossible.
Well, let's get the numbers back in the next one. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes,
That is all you have for evening,
that is
Chairman?
all we have from Public Works. Thank you.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Trustee Daney, seconded by Trustee Hopkins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Carbonaro?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Danzy?
Yes.
Hopkins? Ranky?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.